Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
कोई हसीना जब रूठ जाती है तो और भी हसीन हो जाती है.
We have here with us in our studios the iconic Mr. Ramesh Sippi, one of Bollywood's most famous directors, whose films are of course well known, but who himself is someone that everyone loves to emulate. And he's of course one of the most inspiring filmmakers we have today. Welcome, Mr. Sippy. 40 years of Sholay cause of celebration. I can't help you asking something that is very cliched, but I think this is very apt on a day like this.
Ji.
How does it feel? 40 years of a film, people are still raving about it, people are still talking about it,
It also feels very humbling. One is amazed how something like this is possible. When I was working on the script, we all thought, the writers, Salim Javed and me, my father, कि भाई we have a really good script. But definitely ऐसा नहीं सोचा था कि ये 40 साल बाद हम उसके बारे में इस तरह बातें करेंगे.
Right.
और जो आज हो रहा है, जो हमारी बात हो रही है, वाकई एक अजूबा है. मुझे खुद नहीं समझ में आ रहा, एक फिल्म ऑलमोस्ट रामायण और महाभारत की तरह, उसके वर्ड्स जो लाइंस हैं,
dialogues are still being repeated
everywhere, और हमारे कोलोकियल लैंग्वेज में ही उनकी जगह बन गई है.
day-to-day conversations.
हाँ, वो टेलीविजन पे किसी न किसी एड में भी आ जाता है, किसी जोक में आ जाता है, कोई ना कोई रेफरेंस आ ही जाता है, और सब कनेक्ट कर लेते हैं इमीडिएटली कि ये इसका मतलब ये हुआ.
But there must have been some thought process, because I read somewhere that before you started work on Sholay, of course it's a teamwork, everybody knows, there is a director, there's a producer, there's a script writer and of actors of course, but the director being the captain of the ship, of course he has the command. I remember reading somewhere that you had mentioned in one of your interviews that before you started work you had said no compromises. So you must have set out to do something because you had a vision.
That's true. When we started the film, this was truly the motto for the film, the driving force for my entire unit, whether actors, technicians. I told them, we are going to achieve this. If the West can do it with such finesse, any film, take any genre of film, we are doing an action-adventure film for the first time on this scale. Why can't we do what they do in the West? What is so difficult? So, choice of going in for 70mm and stereophonic sound was made to give it the grandeur. The setting, I was insistent we changed from the normal Chambal Valley where the dacoits used to operate, and we shifted to a site near Bangalore, between Bangalore and Mysore, a place called Ramnagaram. We built a whole village. And that became the center of everything. And it's just impossible to think of that today, that in those days when you want to do something like this, how is it possible while you're shooting or scripting or making of the film, how can you really imagine that the kind of success it will see? We were confident we had a good script. We were confident we had good actors, they would perform, and they were performing. So while we were making the film, everybody was really into it, and they did not hold back. I thought I would finish the film in 150 days, 200 days, but it took 500 days to complete the film, and nobody batted an eyelid, especially not my father, who was pouring the money into the film, and his confidence too was very, very high about this subject and about this film. So what can one explain about a film like that?
No, but before that you'd also made Andaz, you'd also made Brahmachari.
No, I had made Seeta Aur
Geeta also. Yes,
I was associated with the making of Brahmachari, yes, but my first film as a director was Andaz, and second was Seeta Aur Geeta. So there was a certain confidence, and with that came the vision. Sometimes everything falls into place. So Salim Javed came up with this idea, a 4-line idea. If we want to do an action-adventure film, that this line sounds good. We heard it and we agreed that, yes, let's work on this one. And for the next month and a half, we were at it, and the screenplay was ready. In the following 1 month, the dialogues were written. Once the screenplay was ready, we started casting.
But you had a different cast.
Not exact. Because of Seeta Aur Geeta, the three people in Seeta Aur Geeta, because A, it was successful, and B, it was a very nice working camaraderie between all of us. So I always felt that if we could get these three to be part of the new film, it would be nice. So 3 were set. And for the other 3, of course, Jaya Bhaduri and Amit ji was doing, Bachchan was doing a film called Zanjeer with Salim Javed.
Yes.
And they suggested he's doing some good work. I had seen a couple of his films.
Okay.
One was Anand, in which he'd done a somber role.
Yes.
And the other was Bombay to Goa, in which he'd done a lighter role. Ek choti si bus mein, he was singing and dancing with that tall figure of his.
Right.
He was able to, and he was very graceful and very energetic, and it was not at all awkward in that, with the height and with the restricted conditions of work. So I felt he has gone on both sides of the performing levels. He has shown his ability to do both sides of a character. So that's how we decided finally to choose him. Now the difficult part was, which was not difficult, we had already signed Danny Denzompa
for the Gabbar's role.
for Gabbar's role. But at the time we were ready to go for the first shoot, Danny was caught up with Mr. Feroz Khan for Dharmatma. And so he expressed his inability to come for those dates. Of course, an attempt was made to try and see if some adjustments could be made. But one felt that both producers would suffer. On the one hand, Mr. Feroz Khan would suffer. On the other hand, we'd also suffer. We both had sets of other actors to... Already, Hema Malini was one.
Yeah, top star those days.
No, and Hema Malini was in his film as
Dharmatma as well.
Right. So there was enough to adjust.
Okay.
So I didn't want more and more problems. So once again, Salim Javed suggested, there is this young man, son of a fine actor, Jayant, and let's call him. Again, as it happens, I had seen Amjad on stage. My sister was doing a play with him. So it was about South Africa. So she said, come and see the play. And when I went to see the play, there was this little surprise of Amjad playing this role. I mean, he caught my notice that he's a good actor. He was performing well. So when Salim Javed mentioned his name, it sort of clicked in my head that, yes, he was an interesting actor, I remember. So he was called into the office. The look is good, but let's see what else we need to do in order to make sure of it. So we called him a few days later, told him to grow a beard, a stubble, got the dress ready for him, the military fatigues, and put that bullet belt around him. And we took the photographs. When they came out, it felt like we had what we were looking for.
But did you have any doubts about his ability? Because you had 4 very established names and he was a complete newcomer.
You know?
Not at all.
What I'm saying is, at that age, when you're young, I mean, I would do things like that even today, but probably more so when I was just 29, 28, 29. I started the film at 29.
Okay.
Sholay.
Right.
My career started at 25, but at that time, the success of 2 films and that confidence was there. Why not? Let's go for it. If he seems right, if he looks right, and what do we have to lose?
No, I'm just asking you because, you had the best of everything. I mean, you thought of having a 70mm film with stereophonic sound at a time when there was no television. I mean, you had no threat from the television industry. So you were going in only for the best and the finest. So at a time like that, and you had the best music director also of those days, Mr. R.D. Burman, to compose songs. I just thought maybe, because there were 5 most important characters in the film and one of them was being played by a rank newcomer. So I just thought...
Well, a lot of people said, don't take Mr. Bachchan.
Okay.
7 filमें उनकी भी नहीं चली थी.
Right.
In a row. But his ability to perform was established.
Right.
In the 2 films that I have mentioned and some other films, they may not have done well at the box office, some of them. So he was going through a streak of bad luck. And here again, the bloodlines were there. Jayant was a very fine actor and he showed a lot of interest, enthusiasm to do the role. And so we said, let's do it. Let's go, take that chance. We didn't even look at it or think of it like a chance. What is a chance? We've got a good script. We've got other good actors. So I'm sure we'll be able to do something about it.
Another thing, I just want to ask you, what makes a mind like Mr. Ramesh Sippi's tick? Because you were part of a film fraternity, a film family, right from the time you were, I think, 6 when you first went to the sets and you started hobnobbing with a lot of these technicians. I think you also acted as
yes, I did a small
Achila Sachdev's son.
Yeah, that's right.
In a film.
Shahenshah.
Yeah. So wasn't acting something that you wanted to take up?
Surprisingly, no. I did it for a lark. I mean, I did it because, okay, at that moment, they were probably looking, iske liye kisko le aaye? Chalo, hum kar lete hain. That way. I've done a couple of more roles like that later on in life. Very small ones, but I have. I was always fascinated by cinema, by how to make. Every age has its own set of wonderful movie makers, and I was fascinated. In the West, too, the same thing. We had films like David Lean, Lawrence of Arabia, and his film in Russia, Dr. Zhivago. So you could see that grandeur is there, but there is a love story, or there is a dramatic conflict. Whatever it is, it can be played out against a huge backdrop of a huge canvas. So that was the reason, and even films like Magnificent Seven and Kurosawa's original Godfather was just released before that.
Yes.
And there were also films in the Western, what you call the Western in Hollywood, films like as I said, Magnificent Seven, but also films like McKenna's Gold, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. Then the new breed of Italian stuff started to come in with the director Sergio Leone and with Clint Eastwood, those Good, Bad and Ugly, that series of For a Few Dollars More.
Yes.
Yeah. So films like that, they were in that sense an inspiration for this kind of film we wanted to do. So the point was, let's go there and make something like that. Everyone should sit up and notice that here we can do it. Like Mr. Modi says these days, make in India.
Make in India.
Let's make it here and show it to them. That was
sure enough, you did it.
Luckily, it happened.
I was told that probably Sanjeev Kumar was initially playing another character. He wasn't playing Thakur Sahab.
No. He was set to do this. But of course, Gabbar's role was so colourful that not only Sanjeev Kumar, Amitabh Bachchan and Dharmendra also had one. Why can't I do that role? But they knew that the roles they were doing were the right roles for them. Colourful aspect of the role was enticing, seductive, but everyone fit into the role they actually did so well. Today, it's impossible to believe anybody else could.
Actually,
that
yes. You
character
just can't imagine any other.
You cannot separate the character from the actor.
Actors. Since filmmaking is a teamwork, everybody gets together.
Complete teamwork.
How important is script writers and dialogue writers' job? Because today, why I'm asking you is important because a lot of youngsters would like to know from someone like you how important it is to be together, to be able to, like you spoke about Guru Dutt and Bimal Roy and Raj Kapoor and David Lean, and also at a time when you could have done it all by yourself, but then you took your father's help, you took so many other people's help. How important is to be able to have Salim Javed decide. At one point they suggested, not decide, but you took their suggestions very seriously.
When you find that two young writers who you worked with, they came towards the end of Andaz and then they wrote Seeta Aur Geeta. So when you're working with them, you're gauging each other always when you work. During Seeta Aur Geeta, it was obvious that we were gelling. Me as a director and them as writers, we were really seeing not just eye to eye, beyond that as well. Something that came up in my mind, and if I put it across to them, they brought it back with something else in it. They brought up and said that, how about we go this way? And I thought about it and suggested something. So it's to make it even better. So I think that harmony and also that will to argue with each other, fight with each other to get the best. No. This is better than that. Let's do this and let's do that.
So everybody was determined to do best.
Absolutely, everybody was determined to put the best foot forward. So that's why something like this happened.
And then immediately after that, Mr. Sippy, you made Shaan 3 years later.
Right.
Shaan, everybody looked forward to. Of course, it was a good film, but it didn't see the kind of success that Sholay did.
It did not. It was a well-made film. It had all the technical finesse of, again, any Hollywood film of that kind. But there was something missing, obviously.
I believe you got an art director from Hollywood to design the...
No, I took my art director
Okay.
to England.
Okay.
And the first assistant to the James Bond films, I'm forgetting his name at the moment, but he was very good, and he sat with my art director, and between them they designed this
Underwater.
the whole big
whole-
set, which had several parts to it.
Very Bond-like, yes.
Yes, so it was Bond-like. One should never be ashamed of
Admitting
where it comes from.
Yeah.
But you do it your way.
Yes,
You don't
exactly.
have to do exactly what has been done. Those chairs and those push buttons and falling into the water, the crocodile in there and all those. In some film, you will see a man thrown into a crocodile pit and into darkness, and that's the end of it. But we did it in a different way. No harm being inspired by anything
And acknowledging it.
and acknowledging it. But we definitely made a good film. But
Did it disappoint you when it didn't do well at the box office?
the expectations were such that whatever happened, the aura of Sholay was difficult to replicate. So in later years, people have told me, do you know that Shaan is an even better film? But that's a kind of a backhanded compliment. It's not a... And they mean it, but yet it is. I believe that if it was that much, that was that good, then it should have done better than Sholay. Why should it have done less than Sholay? But not everything happens that way.
But you did start another film called Zameen with Sanjay Dutt and Madhuri. And
Yes, that's
Sridevi.
my one unfinished film.
Yeah. We were looking forward to it because it had a duet dance performance with, I think, Sridevi and Madhuri. Which,
No, that was not yet done.
Okay.
But
It was to be done.
Yes, it was going to
Okay.
be. But yes, it had a very promising cast with Vinod Khanna and Sanjay Dutt and Rajnikant in
Yes.
South and Sridevi and Madhuri Dixit. So, I mean, there itself was a 5-star talent which you
Star
cannot
cast, yes. You
put-
can't
get
think
together.
Of it. Yes.
Nobody else was able to do it.
Yes.
Never mind, even for me, getting Amitabh Bachchan and Dilip Kumar together to do a film like Shakti
yes.
was
I was coming to that.
was an
Yes.
amazing
Experience.
So if this could not be made, and that at least was done.
At a time when there was very stereotypical story ideas being explored, be it Andaz, where you thought of widow remarriage in a very mainstream scenario, and also Seeta Aur Geeta, where she fights off villains. There is a character, a woman character, not somebody like Dilip Kumar who did it in something similar in
Right.
Ram Aur Shyam.
Ram Aur Shyam, when it was released, I loved it, enjoyed it as a film, but something in it, there was only one thing that I remember my mind saying, that a meek Dilip Kumar did not
Being
feel
cowed down.
convincing
Yeah.
to me in my head. Nobody else's. It was a big success, and I also loved the film. And what if this were a woman? Be a very natural thing for a woman at that point in time in society, and those things were done. Exploitation of a bahu girl
In a
in
typical
the typical family. The others family members are
Trying to dominate
exploiting
her.
and
Yes.
dominating her. Also because of the wealth factor that.
Yes.
So this hypocrisy on the one hand, being nice to her, on the other hand, taking all that would work well. Almost a Cinderella story.
Right.
So that was interesting. And then the film has just come out. You can't make it. Maybe later at some point.
So you had it in your mind.
It was there. It hit me then, and then later, years later, when we decided after Andaz what to do, that's when the Seeta Aur Geeta thought came up, and why not? Let's do it with a woman. So if you change things a bit around, but the beauty of the story doesn't end there. We made the film. It became a very successful film, and then one day we got a visit from producers from the South. They were the original makers of Ram Aur Shyam. So we were a little tense.
Okay.
Have they come for some kind of a copyright situation? And we sat them, my father was there, I was there, we sat them down and chai, coffee and all that, and said, please tell us what we can do for you. He said, you have made this film Seeta Aur Geeta. Is it possible that you give us the rights
Okay.
to make this film in Tamil?
Okay.
And we want to take Hema Malini only to play the role. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And then they said, Mr. Sippy, what would be the cost? What would you like to receive? I said, please take it and please make it. There is no cost to it. I was inspired by your film to make
Right.
Seeta Aur Geeta.
Okay.
You're most welcome to go ahead and make it. And we gave him the letter to go ahead and make that film. So that's how the world is. It's a very fascinating place, how things happen.
But immediately after that, after a string of successes, you did make 2 other films, Kela and Bhrashtachar, I think. But you're not very happy with the changes that were taking place in the industry, because a lot of your fans are still, waiting for you to make a film.
I have made one,
You have made one.
Shimla Mirch.
Okay. So please tell us about
I've
it.
just completed it.
Okay.
I cannot talk too much about it. It's too early.
Okay.
But at some moment like this in the future, not very far away.
Would you tell us what it is about, at least?
Not.
Okay,
That's
not
the-
even that.
That's what I
Okay.
can't do.
Not even the
These
star
days,
cast.
the way films are promoted, you got to do it at the right time.
Okay, you have to be careful.
And once, if I do it now, then the rest of the press and rest of the everything, everybody will want to know that. And we are not ready to do that now. We have to fix a release date and then move everything
With
accordingly.
promotions and marketing.
And within that, everything will come out what it is about.
So you're very much.
All I can tell you is Hema Malini is in it.
Okay.
And 2 young people, sweet, cute, little, romantic, light-hearted comedy.
So you're still part of the industry, of course. I mean, you once gets to see you at various functions or often honored.
I'm still producing films.
You're producing films, yes. Your son is making films. What do you think of the kind of films that are being made today? The trend has completely changed now over the years.
I think it's fantastic. I think I see a very... I know there are a lot of people who think there was a golden era and films were made like that. But I think today I like a Tanu and Manu as much as I like a Bajrangi Bhaijaan,
Okay.
a Piku.
Okay.
Okay, so they're all different.
Very different.
Very different films. I think it's so fascinating that you can make almost any kind of film. There was typical films in those days, but again you will notice that what I did in those days was break those
Molds.
molds.
Yes.
And that's why my films also worked. All these young people are doing exactly
You're
the same.
much ahead of your time.
So what today's youngsters are doing the same thing.
Okay.
To make a film with Salman Khan, who's known for his action and his comedy and romance and everything, and you come and make a film with a child he used to take across the border.
Right.
I mean, it takes guts to think of it in that way and to come out with such a sweet film. I mean, I think it works across the borders and the rest of the world.
And the rest of the world.
Yes.
That's right. Mr. Sippy, in between, you also did something that people sit up and take note of, something that was completely extraordinary. Bunyad, you forayed into television.
That's
and
right.
It's a television series that people still remember very fondly. People, every time there's a rerun, people just look forward to watching it. What was your idea behind it?
Well, I don't know. At that time, I remember films were being made, but because of the piracy and because of this new thing that you could get a video of a film and watch it at home, there was a sudden craze for watching films at home. And this new contraption and the whole idea of a film coming into your home was something that fascinated a lot of people to stay away from the cinemas. When I visited cinema to see some film, I remember seeing that the lowest denominator was in that audience, and all the other middle class and the upper classes
Vanished.
all disappeared.
Right.
So I said, if I'm making a film, it has to appeal to this lower denominator. So I tried to make films which I thought would appeal to that lower denominator, because they like basic stuff, and a film like Bhrashtachar, also it was topical because of the corruption factor that it was handling. So I thought, let's give it a go. But obviously I was not in my elements because it was not my world and I was uncomfortable with it. And so the product that turned out wasn't as good as it could have been from some other maker who was used to making those kind of films. So then I gave it a halt, stepped out for a while.
After Bunyad, which was a huge success, it still is, you didn't think of making more serials? Or
I did. I made one for DD Metro called Kismat. It did very well. But again, it didn't replicate the success of Bunyad. And then there were more channels. As they said, the playing field changes around you. Things you have to understand that there are more platforms vying for your eyeballs. Because it was meant for DD Metro and to make a city-centric subject, and that was Kismat. So,
given a choice, would you still make big budget films like Sholay again today, or you'll go in for something less?
This one, the one that I've made, is a small budget film, but I've always made big budget. There's no particular reason why I would not want to make a big budget film. If I felt that the subject excited me enough, if I got what I wanted as a star cast and the backing for it, certainly I would do it. But let's see.
So I read somewhere that Sholay is a milestone that hangs around your neck, but you don't get bothered about it, or at least you're not bothered about the fact that people keep talking about it all the time. You said it's like a bell which announces your arrival wherever you go. People talk about it, whether it was in Pakistan or in India, anywhere.
Do I look bothered?
Not at all. No,
Do I sound bothered?
No, because every time Mr. Ramesh
Is there
Sippi,
anything like that in my voice
nothing at all.
that says it bothers me?
Nothing at all.
Yes. It does dwarf the rest of my work, which probably to me is unfair. But as far as the
Yes.
people are concerned, they love Sholay and they love it beyond the others. That can't be helped. I feel very happy that the best film also is the film that I have made.
Exactly.
If the audiences are loving it after 40 years and they tell me, the parents tell me that even our children sit down with us when we watch and they also enjoy it. If today's youngsters are watching it and enjoying it, what else can make me feel happy? So, after all, I've made it. Would I rather it be made by somebody else and I not have it around my neck?
You wouldn't like it to be remade, of course, if there was a remade.
No. You tell me, if they haven't forgotten the first one,
Why should there be a remake?
Why should there be a remake?
Exactly. The best thing is that you are coming up with another film, and we shall all look forward to watching it, not just here in India, but everywhere else, where your fans are scattered all over the world. And they're not just Indian fans, they're Pakistani fans, they're Asian fans, and I'm sure they're also looking forward to watching your next film.
Do remember the name, Shimla Mirch.
Shimla Mirch. Thank you so much. Thanks a ton.
Thank you. Thank you so much.